Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I'm actually filming this intro late because I kind of forgot to film one when I started the vlog. I just jumped right in without preamble. So I am here from the future to quickly introduce you to what you're going to see in this novel writing vlog. So this vlog is going to cover the first round of beta reader feedback for my historical mystery manuscript nicknamed Project Dagger. This is a 1930s set, Agatha Christie inspired historical murder mystery. In this vlog, I'm going to talk about some of the feedback that I received from my first round of beta readers, what I'm thinking about it, and how I'm planning to implement this feedback to improve my book for the next round. I am going to do a second round of beta readers, which I believe by the time you're seeing this will be starting very soon. I know several of you out there signed up to beta read this manuscript, and I'm super excited to get your thoughts on it. I think it's going to be even better for the second round of betas. So without further ado, we're gonna go back to past Jackie and hear a little bit about her editing process. Hello. So all of the section 1 surveys for Project Dagger beta reader feedback are in. And one thing that I saw Bethany Atazada on YouTube recommend in one of her videos on beta readers is to convert the survey results into a spreadsheet and then print the spreadsheet. So I did that, but the font came out really tiny. This is my first time doing this, so maybe with the next section I'll try to play around with the format a little more to see if I can make it bigger, because I didn't think it was gonna be this tiny. But that's okay. I really just wanted to have all the results together so that I can look at it and think about if there are any patterns that maybe I didn't notice before. I've already started working on implementing some of these edits, and I'm trying to keep track of how many words I'm rewriting because, as I've mentioned before, I'm keeping a little journal with all of the writing that I'm doing this year. So I want to have an accurate number at the end of the year of how many new words I wrote. It is a little bit tricky because sometimes I'm just rewriting one sentence, not an entire scene, but I'm trying to keep a pretty good tally. So at the end of the year, I can have all of the data, but I'm going to make sure that I tackle this, and then I'll go through part 1 and mark the comments as resolved as I'm tackling those areas. I also today ended up getting my first section 2 survey, and this survey really was thought-provoking because, so Project Dagger, no spoilers. Like I've said, the main characters are not professional investigators, so they have to be motivated to solve the case, because an average civilian is not gonna decide they're gonna solve a murder just for funsies, right? So it's kind of that situation where one of the characters feels like, okay, I am a suspect in this case, so I need to clear my name, right? You've all read books like that before. And this beta brought up the fact, okay, like, I'm not fully convinced that they need to solve this case, because yes, like, they're looking at him, but it's not so bad. They don't have any actual physical evidence to indicate that he did it. And I thought about this because I think this is a fair point. And one of the things that I was trying to do in an earlier draft was make it more clear why they feel compelled to solve the case, right? So I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking, physical evidence. Is there any way that I can plausibly introduce physical evidence that indicates that he did it? And I had an idea that I think is a really good idea. And I think logistically I can make it work. I think it'll make it a lot more clear why they need to solve the case. It'll raise the stakes. And also it will, there's something that happens early on in the book that is kind of just like a little moment. But if I do this, it'll have the little moment like actually have repercussions in the story. So I think it's a good idea. Obviously I'm being vague because you haven't read the book and I can't tell you the specifics, but I like this idea. Thank you to that beta for getting me started on this train of thought. So you see, this is why I love having beta readers, because sometimes they say these things and I just have, eureka moments, let's say, where they say something and I, ruminate on it. And then I feel like, oh, I've got a great idea now for how this can be made better. So I'm excited by that. I know that's very, very vague, but I just wanted to share my excitement. Hello, everybody. So almost have the surveys for section 2. I have half of them at this point, and I will probably send a reminder tomorrow just to, remind people, hey, these are due. Let me know if you need extra time. And something that I have also been working on is there are some scenes that I want to edit based on the beta reader feedback, and I actually wrote them out in a notebook because sometimes when you're editing scenes in the document that has the entire novel in it, I personally feel like that messes up your flow and your perspective, because if you're just jumping to a certain part in a scene and editing it, it just, to me, sometimes feels like you lose sight of the flow of the scene as a whole. And then I just find myself being like, are any of the words that I just wrote any good? So I figured this might be a more organic way to edit the scenes. And I also think it has the benefit of I was more choosy with my words. Since I was writing each one by hand, I was thinking about them a little more before I committed them to paper. Now, I'm not redoing the scenes entirely, so there were times where I wrote copy and paste this part because I knew that part of the scene I was going to keep the same. But I think so far it was a good exercise, and I'm going to type these up to see how long they were. So I am feeling good about some of the changes that I have in mind. I do genuinely think that some of these ideas that I had inspired by the beta reader feedback are going to make the book even better. So I do feel good about that. But to be honest with you, I definitely am going through a lot of emotions with this book since I've already written a book in the past. And today is a day where I am feeling a little anxious, a little sad. So I queried Project Mayfair starting around this time last year. It was August 2023 when I started querying it. And I do have some requests that I haven't heard back on yet, though I'm not expecting much. Some of the agents who are holding onto my materials, I can just see that they frequently don't respond. So I'm not really expecting to ever hear back from them. And I've kind of just lost hope for that project. I've kind of just accepted that it's not going to get an agent, and I guess technically I still could, but I don't think it's very likely. So I'm now coming at this from the perspective of someone who has quote unquote failed at querying once. There are days where I worry, what if this book doesn't get an agent either? What if I fail again? What if it's not good enough? And there's a lot of unknowns because obviously I can work with beta readers and get their feedback, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get an agent. Like, all of my beta readers could love my book and I could still not get an agent with it because it's a subjective industry and there are so many factors that go into it. So those unknowns, honestly, like, just to be real, they terrify me. And it would be really hard to query this book and not get an agent again, because this is the lifelong dream. And it would really be hard to lose out on my dream twice. So there are days in this process where I feel great, I feel very optimistic, and there are other days where I really struggle with feeling like I'm not good enough. And I feel like today is one of those days where I don't even know why I am having those thoughts and navigating those emotions. So that's enough about my emotions right now. Hopefully some of you feel validated by that talk, or maybe I'll just feel stupid and delete this footage later. I don't know. I guess that's also a possibility. I think it came out a little better this time. Probably still should have increased the font size, but it's a little more readable. So I have all of these section 2 surveys, and now my betas are on the final part of the manuscript. It is really interesting. So yesterday I went through the entire section 2 Google Doc, and I was just making the minor line level changes, marking them as resolved once I tackled that. And it was really interesting because I honestly think out of the 6 people who are currently reading my manuscript, 3 or 4 of them commented on something that was a major clue to the ultimate solution, right? But reviewing their section 2 surveys, not a single person guessed the murderer correctly, even though a lot of them noticed the clue, which is really interesting to me. So I'm really looking forward to getting their final surveys and seeing what they think. Are they happy with the ending? I mean, none of them locked that in as their guess, so are they going to be excited? Are they going to feel like, oh, there should be more clues? I made myself a checklist of scenes that I want to edit based on their feedback. There is no scene that needs a complete and total rewrite, but there are scenes that I'm going to have to change based on their feedback. And like I said, I want to add in like a new plot element. So that's going to require me to edit a lot of scenes to introduce this to the story. At some point, I'm going to have to do a complete reread because it's been a while since I reread the manuscript from start to finish. And obviously, when you're rewriting scenes or changing things, you can obviously accidentally create an inconsistency or a plot hole elsewhere in the editing process. So at some point, I need to reread the entire thing and get it ready for my next round of beta readers. I'm just not sure, should I start my reread now or wait until they're all done reading part 3? I put a 1-week buffer in between the beta groups to give myself some time. So I'm not really sure what, if anything, I should be doing at this exact moment. I have these scenes that I want to edit, but should I edit them as I'm rereading or edit them and then do the reread? I don't know. Another thing that I saw when I was reading all their comments on part 2 was, okay, how do I want to phrase this? All right. I want you to think right now, if there were a crime scene, who do you think would be responsible for cleaning up the crime scene? And when do you think that would happen? Just think about it for 1 minute and then I'll explain where I'm going with this. I would like insert the Jeopardy music here if I could, but I think that's copyrighted. So just sing it in your head. You have 30 seconds. Good luck. But the reason that I'm asking this is because in part 2 of my manuscript, 2 different beta readers commented on something saying they didn't understand or fully believe the scene because the police would have cleaned up the crime scene, was their logic. And actually in real life, as far as I'm aware, the police do not and never have cleaned up crime scenes. That is the responsibility of the victims or the victim's family if the person was killed. There are actually companies whose job it is to clean up crime scenes. I'm a member of the Mystery Writers of America, the Florida chapter, because that's where I live. And we actually had a meeting once where we had a talk from someone who owns one of those crime scene cleanup companies, which is so interesting. And I remember watching true crime videos where the victim's family literally discusses how they had to clean their loved one's blood from the floor. Like, it's really, like, honestly sounds so incredibly traumatic. So as far as I'm aware, the police do not clean crime scenes, okay? That's up to you. Either you clean it up or you hire someone, right? And as far as I'm aware, that's how it's always been. So when the betas are saying, well, I don't believe this because the police would have cleaned it up, as far as I'm aware, that's factually untrue. But what is or is not factually true doesn't really matter. What the reader believes matters. Because if a reader is reading a book and they get to a scene like that and they think, well, that doesn't make sense because the police would have cleaned this up, odds are they're probably not going to go to Google and look up whose responsibility it is to clean crime scenes, right? They're just going to assume that they're right and that I made a mistake. In historical fiction, people refer to this as the Tiffany problem, which I've thought about making a whole video on this, but I'll just summarize it really quickly. So the woman's name, Tiffany, actually derives from the medieval name Theophania. So if you were to write a medieval historical fiction book, technically you could name a character Tiffany and have that be historically accurate. But no reader is going to believe that because readers associate the name Tiffany with like girls who were born in the 80s and 90s. So even though it's true, it's not believable. You follow me? And so I'm trying to think, okay, I am pretty sure that the police do not clean up crime scenes, but does the average reader believe that? Because obviously I don't want to write something that they are having a hard time believing. So that's why I'm asking you about this, because I want to gauge the public opinion. I'm thinking about reframing the scene in this way to maybe handle that problem, because in my mind, okay, let's just say hypothetically the police did clean up crime scenes, okay? Even if they did, you would think that the place where a violent crime has occurred would still have some traces of it, right? You would think it would have stained the wallpaper. You would think it would, be on the bedding and the furniture. You would think that there would be blood in between the floorboards, like really down in there. So I feel like I might reframe it that way because, like, even if somebody did clean it up, you would probably still see traces of what happened there. Hopefully all of this makes sense. I'm just trying to figure out, like, how can I frame this in a way that the general reader is going to believe it? I don't know. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say here, and do let me know your thoughts. Like, if you were reading a scene that takes place at a crime scene after the crime occurred, would you expect there to be blood, or would you expect someone to have cleaned it up? Just let me know. I'm trying to figure out what most people think about this. And if there's anyone who has, like, evidence, sources that back in the day the police actually did clean up crime scenes, like, you can send it to me. If you have facts to prove me wrong, prove me wrong. But as far as I'm aware, that's not how it works. So just trying to see how I can make this scene believable for the average reader. Hello, so I just got done with my brow appointment, so I figured I would film an update in the car while I'm just somewhere different other than my house. I think I made most of the edits that I needed to make based on that new idea that I had. I think I have now edited all the scenes that I'm going to need to edit for that. It's not like I had to scrap any and redo them entirely, but introducing that as a plot element did have a ripple effect where I needed to edit other scenes to reflect that change. And what I decided to do was I just took my Word document of my latest draft and I zoomed it out very far so that I could go through the pages quickly. And then I made a checklist in chronological order, all the scenes that I was gonna have to edit. So like, chapter 5, incorporate this, whatever. And then I was able to check them off once I made those changes. That way I was able to edit the things that I needed to edit before doing a complete reread, because I thought it wouldn't be that helpful to be rereading and then have to pause to edit a scene, because I figured that would just ruin the flow and kind of defeat the purpose of the reread. So I think I've successfully weaved that into the plot. When I do the reread, I might realize that there were some things that I need to edit, but I forgot. I'll handle that then. And so far, I do have 3 out of 6 responses on the Section 3 survey. And even though everybody obviously had suggestions for things that could be improved, so far, all 3 of them said they really loved the book. They all gave Section 3 a 5 out of 5, and the book as a whole a 5 out of 5. So that's obviously really good to hear, because like I said, my big source of anxiety is, okay, is the book going to be good enough? Because I've already had one querying experience that didn't go the way that I wanted to. And it's very hard because you can never know if a book is quote unquote good enough, right? But it makes me feel good knowing that these beta readers genuinely really, really enjoyed the book, because that just makes me hope, okay, maybe there's going to be a literary agent out there who's going to enjoy it enough to offer to represent me. So I'm very happy with the feedback that they gave me. I feel like they genuinely identified areas for improvement that I agree with, while also giving me a lot of positive feedback and positive reinforcement at the same time. So I'm going to wait for those other 3 surveys, and obviously there will probably be some scenes in Section 3 that I'm going to need to tweak a bit as well. Once I've done all of that, everybody's read it, I have an idea of everything that needs to be improved, and I feel like I've done what I can do, that's when I'm going to do the reread before the second beta group, just to see if there's anything that I missed or anything else that I think I can add. Hello, it is Sunday, August 11th, which means it is the final day for my first beta read. One person had told me before that they might need extra time on part 3, so I'm assuming she's just gonna get it to me later this week. But I'm gonna send out a thank you email to the people who did give me their survey, because I want them to know that I appreciate them and, express my thanks. And that's about it for now. I think this afternoon I'm gonna get started on some of the edits for part 3, and we'll see how things go. I wanna post this vlog on Wednesday, so I gotta wrap this vlog up before then. All right, it is now 3 hours later, and I looked at all of the comments in the part 3 Google Doc. I think I edited everything that I wanted to edit, and though I added over 2,000 new words, or I shouldn't say added, I rewrote over 2,000 words, pushing 3,000. My word count only went up by about 400. Because, a lot of the things that I rewrote, I was replacing what was originally there with the rewritten part. And that's good, because that means when I query, I can still round down to 89,000. So we'll see. I'm going to reread the entire thing this week to make sure that I'm happy with it and that I haven't accidentally introduced any new inconsistencies with the rewriting that I did. But I feel good about it. Yeah, I feel good. So I'm gonna reread the entire manuscript this week. I have to do the surveys for the next round of beta readers, and I also have to send out an email, probably tomorrow, to everyone who signed up to be a beta reader, just to confirm they're still interested. So those are the next steps. Oh man. All right, but I'm going to worry about that tomorrow because right now I'm tired. Also, the good news is everybody who filled out the survey so far was happy with the ending and the reveal. They all said that they really enjoyed it. And one person even said, I didn't guess who done it, but in hindsight, I feel like I should have because you laid the groundwork. And that is, in my opinion, exactly what you want to hear with a mystery, because when I read them, that's how I want to feel. Like, I want to feel, OMG, I didn't get this, but all the signs were there, you know? So that makes me really happy. And I feel glad that everyone really enjoyed the book overall. Hello everybody, I think it is about time to wrap up this vlog because like I said, I want to get it posted on Wednesday and it's Monday already. I do have the email ready for the second round of beta readers, so if you signed up, you should have that in your inbox, and please do respond to it so I know you are still interested and that you actually read it and understand the instructions. I'm going to do my reread this week to confirm that I fixed everything that I wanted to fix and just make sure that everything is ready to go for this next round of beta readers. The one thing that I do feel really good about is everybody who was in my first round of beta readers genuinely really enjoyed my manuscript. Of course, they all had suggestions, but everybody said, I think this is really good and it's of a high quality. And that makes me cautiously optimistic because really I'm just hoping that when it's time for querying, at least one literary agent out there will love this and want to invest their time in it. So keep your fingers crossed for me, your fingers and your toes. Now, if you're someone who signed up for my second round of beta readers and you're watching this, I do want to say, one, please do watch my video on how to be an awesome beta reader if you haven't seen that yet. I know a lot of you said this was your first time being a beta reader, and I definitely appreciate you signing up to help me, but I do think that video is going to have some good guidelines if you haven't been a beta reader before, and also tell you a little more about my preferences and the kind of criticism that I respond to. Two, since this is my second round of beta readers, if you are in that group, I do invite you to be more, I want to say nitpicky, but that kind of has a negative connotation, more specific, and feel free to, really dive deep into the details with this because obviously one group of people has already looked at this. That being said, obviously remember this is meant to be constructive, and I personally do not respond well to that tough love style of criticism. So while I do want you to really be honest, really explain what you think, and really, feel free to, look more critically at the manuscript since it's already been through one round of beta readers. That is not necessarily saying like, you should tell me, oh, I hate this, or I hate that, or redo this. Like, obviously this is still meant to be a constructive process. And personally, I respond better when there are both positives and also areas for improvement. Because if I'm looking at the comments on a document and it's just change this, that personally for me is demoralizing. So I just wanted to make that clear. I do want you to be more specific, go, a little deeper, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I want like the tough love criticism, because some people respond to that. I do not. It makes me feel really bad about myself. So hopefully you understand what I'm asking for here. And the other thing is, if at any point you're confused, you don't know what I meant by something, you don't know what I expect, you don't know what I want, like just ask me. I'm totally willing to clarify things for you if you're confused. But going into the second round of beta readers, I feel good that everybody enjoyed it. It is just still, like I said, very nerve-wracking for me because I've already been through one querying experience. I really want to make sure that this time the final product is going to be very strong, very polished, and like of publishable quality. So that's something that I'm really thinking about. And it is hard because obviously when you're pursuing a creative profession, everything is unknown and the industry is so subjective. So I can never know 100% if the book is ready. I can only get feedback from lots of sources and trust my gut, which is scary because I personally hate the unknown. That's something that I've talked to my therapist about extensively, but you know, just gotta do your best, and at some point you gotta send the work out there. I was originally planning to also talk about how to find literary agents in this video. I was thinking about signing up for Publishers Marketplace for just a 1-month subscription so that I could research agents, and I ended up not having time to do that in this video. But if that is something you would like to see in a future video, do let me know. I can chronicle that experience if you think it would be beneficial. Other than that, I think that is it for me today, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. It really does help my channel grow and reach more people. Also, please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and my social media links are down below if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Bye, and I'll see you next time.